Welcome everyone, adamthewoo here. I'm inviting you on a journey, a quest for fun, if you will. One that involves boarding a plane in Southern California and flying more than halfway across the country in hopes of arriving safely in Chicago. Renting a car.
Probably gonna have to hit a car wash before returning this.
And going through 7 states, starting with Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and back to the Golden State, the filming locations of the 1983 comedy classic directed by Harold Ramis, starring Chevy Chase, National Lampoon's Vacation.
As the credit sequence ends, you see the skyline of a postcard of Chicago, and then the real Chicago, which just so happens to be right there. The same angle, the same shot. The movie begins, as does this adventure.
Let's go!
In a clever twist of coincidence, the first real scene of the film takes place about a block away from this particular road, right in that car dealership parking lot. Nobody tries harder to please you than Lou Glutz Motors. The paint has been changed just a little bit, but that stairwell is still there, and the office where the salesman was terrified when he saw them pull up, because he realized the car they were looking for did not come in. If you're driving the whole tribe cross country, this is your automobile. But in the end, the dealership won out because their old car was flattened like a pancake. Whamp, 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 whamp. Begrudgingly, the car was driven home, the starting point of the road trip down this one-way road. In fact, they passed that tree and that pole that still exists. Thankfully, there was not oncoming traffic like there is currently, or there would have been a head-on collision as they pulled in the far side of that driveway where this wall now stands. Audrey riding her bike directly along this path, and then Ellen steps out of that door, and the family first experiences the glory of the family truckster right there. Even the garage still looks exactly the same. By pulling out, knocking all the luggage on the ground, this trip's not off to a very good start. As the family drives past the skyline, it passes that famous fountain. The interesting thing is, the actual cast family was not here in Chicago as they passed this. It was just a crew. The rest of them didn't meet up until Colorado. Movie magic. It's a beautiful thing. At this truck stop, you can stop for fuel, just like they did. In fact, right here, he was having a little trouble finding the gas tank and ended up ripping the tag off. Looks considerably different. They have remodeled quite a bit. The lady over here in the car with her child did not realize the license plate was going to get that close to her head. Pretty funny stuff. Hey, 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 see that, kids? That's the St. Louis Arch, the gateway to the West. Over 600 feet tall, and there's an elevator goes all the way to the top. That's 60 stories to you and me. Wow, Dad, can we go up on it? No, and there's one thing I learned from the movie. If you veer off to the right up here, you will become lost.
the inner city took place here at Warner Brothers Studios. The first angle, when they pull into town, we can't hide our eyes to the plight of the city. Kids, you seeing all this plight? Now Warner Brothers frowns upon filming on the backlot. Thankfully Google Street View came in handy to the spot where Clark and the pimp had their interaction below the hotel sign, and when they turned the corner and their hubcaps were magically stolen during a conversation just trying to find directions back to the interstate. He just wants to find the freeway.
If you happen to fall asleep in the middle of the night going down an off-ramp, this is an appropriate one to do so on. In fact, this is the exact one. Stunt double pulled behind the 7-Eleven to end the shot. The small motel that once sat at this address has been replaced by this new structure. But right here, at this street corner, the stunt driver did a heck of a job as he spun around twice in the vehicle. Once backing into this particular driveway, and another as it neared a parking spot located where that wall is situated now. Well, up and at 'em. We're here. Kids, this is the very street Wyatt Earp used to keep law and order on. Well, kinda. Just a few feet away. Once again, at Warner Brothers Studios. And behind these buildings used to be an area called Laramie Street, an old Western set. And that's where Dodge City, Kansas took place, and where Audrey almost lost her hearing. As they cruised along here, he was trying to explain to his family why they needed to stop off at the House of Mud. But they weren't interested. And if you pay attention out his driver's side window as he's trying to convince them, you'll notice these dirt mounds off in the background. They're still there. At first I thought they were real mountains, but they're just little humps of dirt. I pretty much made a mountain out of a molehill. As he looks in his side mirror, we have the first appearance of Christy Brinkley, who is driving directly towards where I'm currently standing. Now, if you look across the street, you will notice an electrical box on the far right of the screen and a tree on the left. And if you match it up to the still from the movie, you can see they have omitted and they have removed the telephone poles. In fact, if you look closely where the two cars are racing down the road, look at the structures in the buildings behind them. It's the same spot that I'm sitting currently. Right there. They were basically zooming down this back road thoroughfare. That dilapidated building can also be seen once again at the very end of that scene as she's driving away from the family and from Clark. But she'll be seen again. She'll be back. She'll be back. When they arrive in Coolidge, Kansas to visit Cousin Eddie and pick up Aunt Edna, don't be fooled because it's basically in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, down this dirt road. And if you look closely, on the right of your screen, you can see the homestead right there. When the car pulls in, right past that tree is a fence line, and there used to be a driveway, and the truckster turned and parked right about there on the other side of those trees. And it pretty much looks the same, different coloration, but that's Cousin Eddie's house. Around the back was where the teeter-totter and the worm farm, and the old barn has been torn down, and there's a new one, but a lot of scenes filmed right here on this property. The porch swing has been removed, but other than that, kind of get the same vibe as if Cousin Eddie was starting up a picnic. They were sitting here, and the grill was right over there next to the road. He wasn't grilling hamburgers up, he was grilling up just the buns. Did you tell him the good news? You're driving me to Phoenix! I found out about Adam the Woo.
The adventure's just for you. Adam the woo.
When you're on a cross-country trek to Walley World, sometimes you need a little break. And that's where a rest stop comes in handy. Oh, look. Here's one now. In this case, they decided to grab a bite to eat at the picnic table. And it just so happens that picnic table still exists in the same location. In fact, if you look at those hills in the background and that tree to the right of the screen, this was where Rusty was, quote, playing with the dog. Come get some lunch. Stop playing with the dog, when in reality, the dog was mowing down on his leg. And this little weird stump coming out of the tree still exists too. The angle right there. A little more foliage than before, but that's the spot. The limb, as well as the tree itself, has been removed that Chevy Chase was leaning against shortly before he started dancing with the bologna and cheese sandwich. It would have sat basically right about here, and he was doing his best, standing right in here to impress Christy Brinkley, who was standing right over in that area. The buildings in the background still look identical, however, and when she's calling for Rusty, he's not here right next to the table. He's way over on the other side of the complex. Movie magic, once again. I have to wonder how many people have sat on this now deteriorating bench, not knowing that the Griswolds once shared some sandwiches here before they realized that the dog wet on the picnic basket. After the adventures at the rest stop, they decided they need a good night's sleep and pulled over into this driveway, which used to be Camp Comfort. Camp Comfort looks pretty good. Now, a lot has changed, but a lot remains the same under disguise, if you will, like the painting and the wood color on that building in the background looks different. But they pulled up right here and parked basically in front of this addition. Gotta see if there's any availability for the night. The office has been enlarged quite a bit. Where they walked in was through that door. They had built that counter there to the left. And the original counter here where they checked in was basically where I'm standing, but as you can see, they've expanded the gift shop a little. It still sounds exactly the same. The accommodations were built specifically for the movie at the top of this rocky terrain where they climbed up to pack the luggage on the car, but look down there. One of them still remains abandoned at the bottom of the hill. Out of all that were assembled, this is the last remaining one, and the bullhorn, and they have documented it and called it Sparky's Place, which was the nickname that he had in the movie. You have to wonder if right in here was where they were in the sleeping bag together. Safe to say, I was not expecting to find this remaining out here. In a golf cart now, heading down the hill, going to see the Camp Comfort signs that are in storage. There they are. Wow. There you go. You're looking for comfort. Came to the right place. Excuse me. Can you tell me how to get to Walley World? Just keep going this way? All right. Appreciate it. Down this desolate road is where they were pulled over by the police officer, not realizing they had tied the dog to their back bumper. It's a mistake anyone can make, I suppose, but not one I would want to. Now look at the background here. This pinpoints the spot where the truckster
would have been pulled over. The motorcycle of the cop would have been parked right here, but they use a little photographic trickery, and they use the majestic mountains down that way from the front angle and the back angle. So it's confusing. So if you ever make it out here, you will think, why in the heck does the shot not match up? It's because they used those back there on a couple of occasions from the front end and the back end, right there. Gotta get moving. I'm on a pilgrimage to see a moose. Praise Marty Moose! Praise Marty Moose! It's currently a Mexican restaurant, but at the time the movie came out, it was a Sonic drive-in. In fact, right here, in this very parking spot, is where the family truckster was parked. Is this your idea of a good restaurant? Dog killer! What I like is the fact that there are some remnants that still remain, like the red paint right down there. A little memento, and the pole was right down in that hole. The waitress walked up, put the tray, well, I guess I should say handed the tray to Clark, and he broke his window. Waitress! Now it has been repainted, but as you can tell, other than that, precisely the same. This is the spot where they were discussing the losing of the luggage and their credit cards. But don't fret, Clark always has everything completely under control. Don't you trust me? As long as you don't tie me to the rear bumper.
Who's the moosiest moose we know? Marty Moose. Who's the star of our favorite show? Marty Moose. M is for Mary, where Mary you see. O is for oh gosh, oh golly, oh gee. S is for superstar, family glee. E is for everything you want to be. M-A-R-T-Y M-O-O-S-E. What's that spell? Marty Moose, Marty Moose, Marty Moose. Yuck! That's me!
As they're looking for the Grand Canyon, it states on the screen somewhere in Arizona, and they pass this rock formation, appropriately named Baby Rocks. They started down there, moved briskly this way. They wouldn't quite make it to the Grand Canyon without an incident, however. Once they continued that way, a little bit of an accident was going to take place. I'm on a dirt road now, heading down into Monument Valley, looking for the famous spot of the car wreck. My goodness, this road is definitely not structurally sound. This rental car is gonna need a bath. My best guess says this is the approximate location of where it happened. Notice the incline of the road to be able to get the vehicle up to speed, and the rocks in the background still match up. Now it's been well over 30 years, but I'm thinking they built a ramp right about here. In fact, if I was to wander way off over there a pretty good ways, you would get the angle as seen of these rocks as the car goes flying through the air. I'm not allowed to pass this sign, private property. You have to use your imagination a little bit and pretend we're shifted about 100, 200 yards that way. But this is it. I think he jumped it about 50 yards. That's nothing to be proud of, Russ. 50 yards. Watch out, you're going too fast, you're going too fast! That classic father and son talk took place right here.
You know, I haven't had much of a chance to talk to you man to man, Russ.
And then he ran off to find help. To no avail. But at least he tried. This is also where he was going a little stir crazy in the desert heat. And the camera zoomed right down there. 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
99 bottles of beer. I love a parade.
We pass a gas station every 100 yards. This is no way to run a desert.
The next town over's mechanic shop was very helpful with repairs. How much is it gonna cost you? All of it, boy. You used to sit right where this Burger King now resides. And the pinpointed destination can be figured out based on where the truckster pulled out. Those 2 water tanks are still there all these years later. This road has been completely redone, and the mechanic shop, due to poor business practices, has closed. But the water tanks are still there. Marty? Marty, is that you? Marty! Oh, never mind. I thought he was someone else. I'm at the southern rim of the Grand Canyon. Look at that. Majestic, to say the least. Whatever you do, don't look down. And it was right along this very pathway at a hotel up the way that a check was attempted to be cashed. Fun fact, however, only the exteriors were used in the movie. What you're seeing right there, the indoor shots were somewhere completely different. In reality, it was located directly inside the lobby of these walls. And as you make your way inside the historic Stratter Hotel in Durango, Colorado, you will notice that a lot of things look precisely the same. Look at the umbrella over the top of this postcard rack. It used to be painted a different color, but it's still here. And the woodwork directly behind the counter still looks the same. And when the clerk won't cash his check, he slams his hand down, which triggers something in the cash register. It pops open, he takes the money, leaves the check, and runs out this very door around the side of the stairwell. Flashback to Arizona again as he stumbles down these stairs. And if you notice, he kicks over some luggage and then runs to the edge of the canyon to find his family. There's the view. Probably the world's record shortest time spent at this overlook. And if matching up the background doesn't do it for you, take a look at this rock wall down below and the line work that still remains in the same spot. Notice how that diagonally goes up and then around, and then there's almost like a T-shaped version there. Still looks the same from the early 80s.
When they discover Aunt Edna has died and drive off the road in panic, that was located at the tip-top peak of a place called Schnebly Hill Overlook. Back in the day, it was very simple to drive up here, but currently, the rocky terrain has pretty much taken over. I found this image online, and you could circle around and see the tree still remains from that scene. As breathtaking as it is, it's amazing to think that the whole cast and crew went up this entire mountain to get this very short shot. It was a very rainy night when they arrived at Cousin Normie's to drop off a recently passed away Aunt Edna. The door over there still looks the same, as well as the rockwork. You don't see the balcony, however, in the film. And around the backyard was the prayer, Baruch atah, hallelujah. On this property, 2 things happened. The first of which was Clark going to the bar to get a drink. And as you can tell from going inside, it's been totally remodeled. But this is the spot. He met up with Christy Brinkley, his first conversation, and he found out she was in the mood for some fun. Hopefully the water's not as cold as it was back then. Look at the tiles on the concrete, still in the same spot, even though a little bit different coloration on the tiles on the pool itself, and they've added a hot tub. This is crazy, this is crazy, this is crazy. I'm in deep. I'm in deep. The room numbers have all been changed since then, but the railing still has this unique design, and the woodwork, even though it's been repainted, still the same. Both the children overlooking the whole thing, right up there. I was ordering some fish for you and Audrey. It was a swimming waitress. You believe me, don't you, son? Sure. But you think Mom will buy it? Dun 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 dun. We made it to Walley World. This overpass you see off on the distance there, from the top up, was a matte painting. The entrance to Walley World. Over time, they have blocked off part of this area, and they have constructed a makeshift parking lot out of it. But you'll notice that right down here are the original yellow street markers depicting the lanes to go towards the overpass. This is the parking lot of the Santa Anita Raceway. That might moderately look familiar to you off in the distance. They also did another matte painting above the horse track. The interesting thing is, the exact spot they pulled up to was located right here. Here's the old parking marker. Here's the new one. So use your imagination for a bit. The car would have been here. They would have uprooted the B3 sign, but everything in the background matches up. This is where the Griswolds wanted to be. They made it. They made it. First one's here. First one's here.
But we're so far away, Clark.
Right. And at the end of the day, when everyone's fighting to leave, we'll be the first ones to get out too, right? First one's here. They've added palm trees and removed the yellow stanchion poles and replaced them with new ones. And the line of poles that used to go directly towards the stadium have also been removed. But this is where the race happened. Chariots of Fire. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Who's gonna win, Clark or Rusty? Gonna head it and have some fun. In their exuberance, they ran up, and Marty Moose was directly right here. I am channeling Marty Moose. If Chevy Chase was here, you think he would he punch me in the face? The angle shifts just a few feet when that iconic moment happens. They place flowers all along this pole here. Of course, to the right of this pole was Marty. And the voice of Marty Moose was narrated by the director, Harold Ramis. After that disappointing moment, they peel off to purchase a gun out the same way they came in. And I'm currently standing up on the overpass that was the matte painting. This is where they drove in and drove out. Just a stone's throw from this beach shoreline is where you could have found the sporting goods store. Right over there. But if it wasn't for that street sign, the palm trees, and this building, it would be very hard to tell that right here was where the gas station was. Ah, progress. If you pay close attention to the windows and the design that runs directly underneath along the wall, and then a little more detail given to the elevated spot on the roof. See how it just jaunts up there about a foot? In my opinion, right inside that door was where the gun was purchased. Dun 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 dun! Six Flags Magic Mountain. The inside shots of Walley World. The security office is long gone, but the Griswolds would have walked directly towards me, but they were stopped, they were halted by John Candy with his hand in the air. Sorry folks, park's closed. Moose out front should have told you. It was also in this courtyard that the other security officer was made to roll around on the ground like a dog, right next to that planter. Smack dab between the two trees. In fact, the light pole still remains. It's been revamped, updated over time, but it's still in the middle of the two trees, like it always has been. This was one of the two major rides used. It looks eerily similar, but has been revamped quite a bit. It's said that some of the cast were starting to get sick because they had to ride this thing over and over and over and over to get the appropriate shots needed. In real life, this boat makes the noise of a dinosaur. You can totally see why they were terrified. No longer a grassy knoll, and the Screamin' Mimi is now called the Twisted Colossus. SWAT team incoming. Watch out! Here comes the SWAT team! There no longer is water. Sand has taken the place at the bottom of the fountain. But the archway still exists. Wow. In fact, this entire area was a pretty monumental point of the movie because they could have gone to jail or they could have got off scot-free. It's no longer called the Whippersnapper, but take a look at the theming of the rockwork protruding out of the coloration. Still there. You can even see where the mounting for the lights used to be. Lanterns placed on that side and another one right here against the wall. Since that time period as well, an addition to the top has been added. It was just the lower portion that can be seen in this frame here when the cops swarmed them. Don't worry, officer. No threat here. It's just a BB gun. It's just a BB gun. I was noticing in this frame when Roy shows up, the head honcho, there used to be a water fountain over there in the corner. The sign was planted along that board. If you look closely, you can see where the waterworks used to flow. It all worked out in the end. And even though the coaster has gone through some changes, the final shot, right there. The family, Roy Walley, and all the police officers careened down that path.
I found out about Adam the Woo. The adventure's just for you. Adam the Woo. Adam the Woo.
First one's here.
Adam don't even ask your mom. That's why the whole world is singing its song. Adam the Woo, 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 woo. Adam the Woo, woo, woo. Adam the Woo, 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 woo. Adam the Woo, 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 woo.
Adam the Woo, Adam the Woo. I'll get it.